Well, here we are again. We were planning on hitting the road, getting some video, but this morning we had our check engine light, which has been on, but went on and got a code reader, and it was showing a PO160 and a PO137. The PO160 was the map sensor, and the 137 I think is the O2 sensor, bank 2 downstream. So that way I've been getting that one, but we're going to take that air filter off. I guess we'll take the doghouse off in there and see if we can find out where the map sensor is. Now here's the mass airflow sensor, the MAF. Yeah, but we didn't get a code on it. I have replaced it once before. I'll have to take that doghouse off, and we need to check on the oil leak back there at the back anyway, see if it's anything leaking back there. So we're going to get a 10 millimeter and take this air cleaner off. We're going to get a screwdriver and a 10 millimeter and take this off. We'll probably get us an air filter too and replace it when we go back with whatever we're going to end up doing. Okay, to get to our manifold absolute pressure sensor, we've got to take the doghouse back off, which we were going to do to check on that oil leak anyway. But like I said, we've got those two springs to release. We got to release that accessory plug, and we've got 4 10 millimeter bolts. And the doghouse will come off, and then we got to finish undoing those straps. And the doghouse will come off, and we'll be able to check, hopefully be able to get good access to that map sensor. And I think what we're going to do is replace it and both O2 sensors, because with 20,000 miles on this thing, none of those have been replaced. And with this engine replacement, I see no reason not to go ahead and replace all 3 of those. So we'll get this off and see if we can find our map sensor. And ever since they put this engine in, this little lock has been off. I haven't known where it went or what it's supposed to do, but I've got a feeling it's got something to do with that map sensor. So we're going to try to find out where it goes and put it back. So we'll make note in case other people have problems with this. I haven't had a problem with it, but the first shop has yet to get this strap back on right. 4 different times they cannot get this strap back on right, that and this air duct. Now that's the way it came from the factory. You've got 2 straps here. You pull down and release the springs, and it comes up, and then just unhook the springs up there at the top. So far, every time it's come back, 3 times it came back backwards with that red dot back the other side, and you couldn't get a hold of the straps to strap it down good. And once it came back right like that, but then the duct was on the outside of the strap, which is not right. It will get loose because the only thing holds it in is that strap. So that is how the strap goes. It's not difficult, but the first shop, 4 times, it never came back correct. So let's take it off, get that doghouse off, and see if we can find our map sensor. This video is a little bit fuzzy, but as you can see, it's wet around that threaded oil pressure sensor. But I don't know that it's coming out of that. I think it may be coming out of that intake. But you can see where it's running down the back. Of the intake, how it's wet right there. That's the first shop. They haven't been able to get anything right yet. I don't see any point in taking it back to them to let them do another intake. I may just have to pay somebody to do it, pay somebody else to do it. Yeah, as you can see, it looks like that seal is messed up on that that manifold absolute pressure sensor. So we're going to replace it and the two O2 sensors, I think, and see if that gets it. Okay, here is the old Bank 2 Sensor 2 sensor. That's the GM one. This is the Bosch new Bank 2, and you can tell it's not made nearly as well as the GM. I'd like to get this shield off of this and put on it, but it's not going to work because I don't have any way to do it. That's the new Bank 1 Sensor 1 for the Bosch. Here is the old map sensor, GM map sensor. The new Napa map sensor. We're going to put a little oil on that seal where it'll slide in better when we put it in. But yeah, I'm not crazy about those O2 sensors, but I guess I'll stick them in. It's a 7/8 and it is hard to get break loose. I have had it for a long time, a O2 sensor socket, but it wouldn't go on that GM one. It might go on that Napa one okay, but we don't need it for installing it. And the Napa one does have some anti-seize on the threads, so we won't have to put anti-seize on the threads. I almost forgot to show you these O2 sensors. There it is, and it's a 7/8. Now that's the side 2 sensor 2. That one there is the side 1 sensor 2. The other two are up yonder. They're 7/8 and they're in tight, but you just have to, I sprayed them to loosen them up to start with and let them sit for about an hour, and I think that probably helped them. So this will be a wrap, I guess, hopefully. Now these are items that I would much rather have gotten from GM, but GM stuff is so expensive. Going to Chevrolet, even with if I get my discount, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. These Bosch O2 sensors are not nearly as well made as the original GM. The connectors, the unit itself is just, it's like something that's thrown together in comparison to what came off of it after 23 years. So we're going to put that map sensor in, that manifold absolute pressure sensor. My intention is to go ahead and take that oil pressure sending unit block out, put some tape on that thread, retape it and stick it in there. It doesn't make, it makes more sense that it's coming out of that pressure sending unit than it does the intake manifold gasket. Okay, we have put both O2 sensors in. The Bank 2 Sensor 2, which means the side of the engine where the number 2 cylinder is, which is this passenger side, and Sensor 2 is the one that is past the catalytic converter after you get to the catalytic converter, after you pass it. We also replaced Bank 1 Sensor 1 O2 sensor, which is the side of the engine that's got the number 1 cylinder, and the O2 sensor that is before you get to the catalytic converter. Now we're going to stick this map sensor in. We put a little oil on it where it will slide in and not damage that seal. Work it in. Is it all the way down? I can't tell. I guess it is. Plug it back up. you would think it would have some kind of little lock on it. And I keep wondering if that little lock I found, wherever it went to, wherever it went to here a while ago, isn't supposed to lock it on there some way or another. But I don't see any way for it to do that. But it is all the way down, so we're going to button this up. We've cleaned the oil off of this again, and it is leaking either. I think it's leaking out of the oil pressure sending unit mounting block down there, but it may still be coming out of the intake gasket. Button it up, put it back together, crank it up, erase the codes, and then see what it does. Now you can figure we've got $210 in parts, the two O2 sensors and the map sensor. Used to not figure gas, but figure 13 miles a gallon, 12, 15 miles each way to the parts store. You're looking at 2 gallons, you're looking at another $7 in gas. So we've got about $220 in this. I guess if you figure you're taking it to a shop, I guess they'd have charged you anywhere from $85 to $130 to diagnose it. They'd have charged you a good 2 or 3 hours to do it all. So at $130, $150 an hour, you're looking at $550, $600, and we got it done for what, $215, $220. But we got to button it all back up and see how it does. So we'll finish this up when we get it cranked back up, see how erase the codes and see how it does. Okay, finishing this up, we're going to put the air filter back on, tighten the clamp back down, tighten our 3/16 bolts back down. We'll crank it up and see how it does. We will erase the codes and see how it does, and then put that cover back on the doghouse. Yeah, see, the first shop, they just zip tied the oil and the transmission dipstick together. If you can see down there, that is supposed to bolt. It's got a bolt hole. It's supposed to be bolted into that. They lost that bolt, and it's also had a clamp that went over to another bolt over here that tied these back into that and kept all these stationary. And see, this is not right, that's not right. You know, I don't know how somebody messes up so much stuff and stays a professional shop and keeps getting business. It's just beyond me. But anyway, we've got that back done. Like I said, these are 10 millimeter. We screwed that back down. Let's hook up the OBD2 reader. We'll crank it and see how it does. Yeah, we were going to head out and get some video somewhere. I left that up there from the painting. But like I said, that $220 pretty much ate up the gas that we had allotted for this weekend. So we won't be leaving out today if we decide to splurge and leave out tomorrow. But $215, $220, we're just going to take it easy the rest of the afternoon, get these 2 videos uploaded, and just chill, I guess. Okay, our check engine light is off, but we erased the codes, so we'll be driving it and see if it comes back on. If it does, we'll check codes again, but I think that's going to get it. Replace 2 oxygen sensors and the map sensor. Like I say, about $220, where I think it would have been close to about $700 had we taken it to a shop. Okay, well, we're going to cut this off. That'll be a wrap. Get in there and try to upload it. Oh yeah, I've got to put this cover back on. Like I said, it's 4 10 millimeter bolts, and make sure you reconnect your accessory if you want to use your 12 volt outlets.